Hello and welcome to another Zenphi tutorial. Today we're going to be going over how you can create a Zenphi flow to be able to handle your new intakes for your practice. In this tutorial we're going to be going over how you can categorize your clients, add them to a table, as well as assign tasks to clinicians, and then finally create a custom document for each client. So let's go ahead and get started. The first step to any Zenphi flow is to set up your trigger, which in Zenphi is the action that's going to start your flow. For this example, we're going to be using a Google form trigger, meaning it's going to start the flow whenever a form response is submitted. To be able to do this, all you have to do is set up a connection. What this is going to do is allow Zenphi to be able to access your form responses. So we're going to click on the plus icon. This connection can be private or shared. You can also give it a new name. After you click on authorize, you're going to be able to select the Google Drive icon here, and you can select any Google form from your Drive. This is going to automatically load all the form controls down at the bottom. This is going to be the intake form that I'll be using for the example. As you can see, it has a couple of questions: their name, their date of birth, phone number, who they're seeking help for. I also recommend always turning on the responses so that you can collect their email addresses and be able to access exactly who submitted the request. Now let's go ahead and get started with our flow. As you can see, there's different steps. These are called actions. This first one that we have here is called switch by value. Since I do have the option to seek help for an adult, an elder, or a child, I want to make sure I categorize them correctly. So I'm going to be using this action. What it's going to do is decide what they've chosen and select a specific branch depending on the response. So all I have to do is indicate the input, in this case who they're seeking help for. To be able to select this, we're going to use the token picker. We're going to open up our trigger and we would select this question. Now here in value, I've added the possible answers that they can choose from inside of the form. I've written it exactly the same. And then there's a default branch. I suggest leaving this one as is to be able to handle any errors. Now all three branches have the exact same action. This action is called create record. What this is going to do is add them to a Zenphi table. All you have to do is indicate which table you want to add them to, which fields you want to add, and then once you select them, down at the bottom you're going to be able to indicate which value belongs to which column. Since we want to add dynamic data from each client, we're going to use the token picker. So if we click here, we're able to add their answers for each field. So here we would be adding their name, date of birth, their phone number, and then down at the bottom where it says category, if they chose adult, I'm going to set the category as adult as well. And the only thing that changes for the other two columns is in category. This one says child, and you guessed it, the other one says elder. And then after, to make sure I'm always updating the same client's record, I'm going to go ahead and set the value to a variable that I created. To be able to create a variable, up at the top where it says variables, you can select create new variable. I just created a normal string variable, and then using the set variable action, I'm going to set the variable with the value of the record ID of the record I just created. So again, the token picker, go to the previous action and select the record ID. And then since there's three different branches, I want to make sure I got the correct information. So I'm going to retrieve the client info using get record. All we have to do is indicate the table, the record ID, which comes from our variable. So if we click on the token picker, variables is down at the bottom, and then we can select which fields we want to return. This is the intakes table where I'll be adding everyone initially, so it has all the different columns from the form as well as a place to be able to add any reports that we create. And then here we have the category as well. Next, I want the supervisor to be able to indicate which clinician they think is best suited to help this client. So I'm going to use the request data action. This is going to allow us to be able to send the supervisor a form that they can select from. So here you have the option to create a form. You can add a recipient, you can add more than one. All you have to do is make sure it's separated by a comma. You can complete the task when the first person responds, everyone responds, or a specific number of people respond. You can also add reminders, there can be more than one, and you can also add expiry. Now if you want to be able to create a form, you would click on this box here and you can add questions once again. So up at the top, I'm just indicating the information for the client. Using the token picker, we can get everything from the client information. And then I've only added one question. This is a Zenphi form. It's very similar to a Google form, so very easy to use. But Zenphi forms have an additional benefit, which is the lookup function. So in this case, it's going to allow me to be able to pull up records from a Zenphi table. And as soon as a table is updated, you can also see it here. That way you don't have to keep updating the fields. So I have this clinician directory with their full name, email, and their license status. So here what I'm doing is looking up the records from that specific table. So all you have to do is select lookup, select which table you want to look up the values from, and then here you can select what you want to display if you want them to see the full name, the email, the license status. And here you can set clauses to decide which records you want to see from the table, maybe only the supervisors, only the clinicians. In this case, since I've indicated to return all records when full name is not null, meaning I want it to return the whole table. And when you select request data, it's going to automatically add the 3 branches. So here you can set up the notification email, so this would be the first one they would receive. Again, you have to set up your connection so that Zenphi can send an email on your behalf. Then you can add a sender display name as well as a subject. And then down at the bottom you can add a body, and then the same thing for the reminder email if you want there to be one. You can also edit the text, and then same thing with expiry if you want to add that as well. And now that they've selected the clinician that they want the client to work with, we're going to retrieve their information by using the get record. This time we're going to use the table that is for the directory. We're going to get the record ID from the request data since they did select one from the table. And then we can choose which field we want to return. Then we want to update the status in the intake table so that they know that this client has already been sent to a clinician. So I'm going to go ahead and use the update record. We're going to choose the intake table once again. We're going to get the record ID from the variable. And I'm going to update the status to sent to clinician. And now we're going to actually go ahead and send it to a clinician. So using the assign task, we're able to add a task name, task description. You can add different outcomes if you want them to approve or reject. In this case, we're going to add appointment complete. For the assignee email, we want to send it to the clinician they chose. So using the clinician info, we can get their email here. And then down at the bottom in the body, I have added all of the client's information. And I'm letting them know to complete the task once the initial meeting has concluded. And now we're going to use the request data once again to be able to retrieve the results from the initial meeting with the clinician. So here we're going to build a different form this time. This is going to be used to retrieve the test results for, and I've added their full name so that they know exactly who they're filling out the information for. So they would add the date that they were tested, IQ score, blood pressure, heart rate, diagnoses, as well as notes. And then again, in the recipient, we would add the clinician since they're going to be the ones filling out this information. You can add reminders. And again, you would set up the email to be able to add the subject or body that you need. And then once they've completed that, what I'm going to do is actually generate their report. So I'm going to get the current date, that way I'm able to add it to the report. And then I'm going to generate the document using a Google Doc template. So this action, as the name implies, generate document using template. This is going to be the one that I'll be using, so we are able to replace information from the form as well as the information that was provided from the clinician. So if you want to replace information, all you have to do is indicate it in between 2 curly brackets, and then this would be the clinician's information. So again, set up your connection to your Google Drive. Here you're going to select which file is going to be your template, so use the Google Drive icon to select the doc from your Google Drive. Then you're going to select which folder you want to save all of the Google Docs in. You can give the new document a name. Here I have put report. I've added the results from the current date. That way I know when the report was created, so we can get it from here, from our previous action. If you want to generate a PDF, you can enable it here. And then down at the bottom, you're going to be able to see all the placeholders in your document. So as we did before, we're going to go one by one indicating which value belongs to which space. So all of this client information, I can easily retrieve it from the client info right here. But then, for example, for the information that applies to the clinician, I would get that from the assigned task that we just created. So everything would be down here. And then what I'm going to do is change the status. So again, update record, the intakes, use the record ID from the variable. And I'm going to update 2 fields. I'm going to change the status to report generated, and I'm also going to add the report. So here we're able to add files. So if we use a token picker, we could select the PDF file. So let's go ahead and do a test run. I'm going to go ahead and click submit. And now if we go to our flow, if we do test run, we can select a form response if we want to test. And I'm going to use this one that I just submitted, click on start. And as we can see, it has sent the email to the supervisor to select a clinician. This is what the email would look like. So here I'm able to click the link to open the form. We're going to go ahead and choose which clinician from the list. So I'm going to choose Georgia Reed, click on submit, and now they've notified the clinician. So I'm going to go ahead and open that email, and this would be what the task that they would receive would look like. So we're going to go ahead and click appointment complete. Let's say we've already spoken to the client, and now it's sent the email to be able to retrieve the results. And here we have the email. If we click here, we're able to open up the form. And then here we have the form, so we would select when they were tested. So I'm going to go ahead and add information here, and we're going to go ahead and submit. And now it's generating our report. Okay, and it's finished through all the steps, and now we're going to go ahead and check our table. So if we look here, it has all of the information from the form. The status is report generated, and if we open up our reports, we have a PDF, which is the one that it generated. And as we can see here, it added all of their information, the client information, as well as the information from the meeting with the clinician, as well as any notes. And that would be everything. As you can see, it can be very easy for you to be able to set up this process, automate all of these different steps in your intakes. So if you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comments section. You'll also find a link in the description to sign up for a free demo meeting where we can go over ways that Zenphi can help your business, as well as help you build your first flow. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comments section, and thank you so much for watching.